Today we're going to talk about how to open a document and gear it for print. So in InDesign, this piece of software is more geared toward print than Photoshop. So whenever we open documents, there are a handful of things that we need to consider that we don't need to with other graphic programs. So when you open your software, you're going to get this screen, and it's going to give you a couple shortcuts: a letter size, a postcard size, sort of like a common web browser size, etc., a little phone size. But for now, let's create new. All right. Now we see here over here on this right side, I have it set to inches because that's what most publications go by. You can also set it to pixels, points, picas, feet and inches, yards, all these other settings. But in the publication world, inches is the most common in my experience. And then we have these other little things. One's called bleed. One's called color mode. So let's decide what we're going to do. And then actually raster effect is the point per inch, or pixels per inch. So we're not going to go over that though today. We will go over RGB. So RGB is usually used for digital display. So red, green, blue is what the colors that screens use to create all the other colors. So we're not doing that. We're doing it for print. So we're going to go with CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and K stands for, well, it's actually black. I think it stands for a key. Sort of like black is considered like the most neutral color, so they call it the key color. So CMYK. And then bleed, what is that? Oh, bleed is the area outside of your actual page. So let's say that your page is a common size of a letter, 8.5 by 11, right? 8.5 wide by 11 tall. Well, what if you wanted the whole page to be blue, for example? Well, if you did a document 8.5 by 11, and then you just did the whole page blue, solid blue, then it would go, in theory, if your printer were perfect, it would go exactly to the edge, no more, no less. But in the real world, print shops will print it on slightly larger paper, and then they'll have machines or humans that will trim off all the edge. Well, what if they're off by a little bit? What if the machine is just having a calibration, just a slight calibration problem? Then you're going to get a little skinny line of white along one of the edges or two of the edges, or it's going to be crooked a little bit. You'll see a little like sliver of white peek through. It certainly happened to me before. So that's why we use bleeds. We actually make our document a little bit bigger than our actual what we want on the page, so that if something happens, if an error happens either with a human or a piece of machinery, then it won't be the end of the world because we created a bleed, which means we made the image a little bit bigger than the page, so it'll still look all right. Okay? So how big should we make our document? Well, why don't we go to Google and look up a publication that you like. Why don't I'm just going to, first thing I thought of add specs. Ad means advertisement, specs means specifications. So advertisement specifications. Yep, media kit. That looks, it doesn't have to say media kit. But look around for a publication you like. All right, here we go. And let's see if we can find something. And they give you a little bit of a price information and blah, 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 blah. So what we're looking for are page sizes. Here we are. So most publications will have this. We have a live non-bleed page or like size, and then we have the trim and the bleed. We don't worry about trim right now in InDesign, but you will use trim in, you won't use it in Illustrator, but you will use it in InDesign. So we'll just skip straight to the bleed. So you'll notice that the page is 7.5 by 10 for this magazine, but the bleed is 8.25 or 8 and an eighth, or sorry, 8.25 inches by 10 3/4 inches, right?